Well, happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome back into Night Talk. I am Eric Loprete. I am very pleased to have my guest, Mr. Isaiah Angeli, here next to me. It's nice at Columbus. We always want to give thanks for our men and women in uniform, and that's why I'm especially glad to have Mr. Isaiah here today. Isaiah is a 9-year Marine, Staff Sergeant. So welcome to the program. Hope you're doing well today.
Thank you, Eric, for having me. It's great to be here.
And I cannot wait to get into this interview, but before we do that, we always want to start with prayer. We want to thank, as always, my wife, Katie Loprete, for giving us this prayer today. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, God of power and mercy, maker and love of peace, to know you is to live, and to serve you is to reign. Through the intercession of Saint Michael the Archangel, be our protection in battle against all evil. Help me to overcome war and violence, and to establish your law of love and justice through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So, Mr. Isaiah, welcome to the program, sir. Hope you're doing well today.
I am.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning, and we're certainly glad to have you. Now, just a little bit of background. You are currently a member of St. Joan of Arc Council, correct?
Yes, I am.
And I think you are the second St. Joan of Arc person I've had the pleasure of interviewing. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. Now, you did not always start out. You were not from Toledo originally. You are originally from the St. Louis, Missouri area, correct?
Correct.
So how in the world did you make your way up to Toledo, Ohio?
Well, I lost my way while going to the college admissions office to a Marine Corps recruiting station and joined the Marine Corps in October of 2014.
Excellent.
Boot camp down in San Diego, went to Pensacola for some training, went to New River in North Carolina for some training as well, ended up in Quantico, Virginia, and then eventually ended up here in Toledo.
Excellent. And you and some congratulations are in order. Recently, you just had your first child, correct?
Yes, so our first child is 16 months old,
okay. But
then also my wife is pregnant with her second one. So.
Oh, well, congratulations, and God bless you both.
Thank you so much.
So good news to be shared here today on the program. Now, you are a lifelong Catholic, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I guess my first kind of question is what prompted you to join the Knights of Columbus? I know you joined originally in St. Louis. And then you came up here. So what really motivated you to join the order?
Well, part of it was family. So my grandfather was a very active knight. He was very involved. Knights of Columbus, when I was growing up as a child, they had like the best Easter egg hunts in the St. Louis area. So those are big ones. And then also they're very iconic with the Tootsie Roll Drive. And for some reason, the Tootsie Rolls were always the best coming from the Knights. But I also saw the Knights as a nice fraternal organization that did a lot of good for the church. I constantly saw them doing various service projects. If you'd ever walk along the parish grounds, you'd see stuff that the Knights did, along with like the Eagle Scouts, and it was an organization that I saw that I wanted to support.
And what was your grandfather's name?
His name is Henry Shaper.
And is he still with us?
He is. So he's getting up there in years, but he's definitely still with us. So
well, we want to thank him for showing you a good example of what a Knight of Columbus member is. So we certainly want to say thanks to you, sir. As we go on here, you joined the Knights because you had all these great memories of seeing the Knights of Columbus in action, like you said, the Tootsie Rolls and the works that we do. But for you personally, I'm curious as to how the Knights have helped you in your spiritual life.
So that's really helped me in my spiritual life. I think a big thing is saying the Rosary. Every meeting at St. Joan of Arc, we always say the Rosary. Even in St. Louis, we said the Rosary. When I would transfer between councils and between the various military bases, they'd always say the Rosary before every meeting. And I think the Rosary gets very much like a feminine type of stigma against it. And I think the Knights really help break that down, because I've even seen myself say the Rosary more often. I should be saying it like at least once a day, but I'm not the perfect Catholic. It's the ideal you're striving for. But the Knights have really helped destigmatize that feminine type of look, that old lady in church type of thinking that some people may have. So that is how the Knights have helped me, is that they really bring a lot more masculinity to the Rosary.
And that's a good point, because we certainly, as even as in our own lives, we always want to be grateful to our moms for for showing us,
of course,
showing us the way to be compassionate and loving. But as we do pray the Rosary, we are reminded that Mary is a mother who gave a very great sacrifice when she when she willingly took on that responsibility, and then eventually she knew what she was going to have to witness, and which was the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And then, but for her to overcome all that and still say, yes, I will take on this responsibility, is just such a great example. So praying the Rosary, like you said, it is a very masculine thing that we do, because we are thanking our Heavenly Mother for giving us her only Son.
Yes, and I just think the perception sometimes is that it's only like a female thing, that very feminine thing that's done, when it's not.
So let's kind of go back to your military career. You've been in it for 9 years.
Yep.
Once again, thank you very much for your service. But what I was kind of curious is, you're the first active military person that I've had a pleasure of interviewing. So I'm just kind of curious as to what are some of the similarities that you have seen from, the Marine Corps to the Knights of Columbus, maybe just in terms of organization or structure, just, what are some of those similarities that you've seen?
Well, a big one is like the fraternal organization that's there, even though that there are women in the military and serve a very critical and good role in it. There's this thing where, like, if you come across another knight, you're like, hey, you're a knight, in the military, when you come across somebody who's also in the military, you're like, hey, you're also in the military. And so you start finding common, and you share common similarities between each other. Another one is, like, I really think it's like there's this consistent structure that goes on at, like, the meetings and how we do events in the military and stuff. The Knights, we have our regalia, our uniforms. In the military, we have our uniforms and our stuff. In the Knights, there's like a rank structure with the 4 degrees, and in the military, there's also a ranking structure. So it's like everybody kind of goes in like this initiation type process, and then you all are on the same level, but at the same token, you're all different on different levels of it. So,
and you are currently a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, I actually do really appreciate the fact that we do have that structure in the Knights, because I do help think that does keep things organized.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, it has to be organized.
We're not just running around and, yelling at one another. There is that chain of command, and luckily we have a very good chain of command here in the state of Ohio, and I've had a chance to meet several of those people, and we're just so thankful that we do have that structure in place, because I do think that helps the order out on a whole. So I guess my next question, kind of following up with that, would be is, you've been in the military for 9 years. What being in the military environment, and then being in this Catholic fraternity environment, what is it that you believe that you and others who are in the military and are Knights bring to the Knights in just some ways that you guys can help, and maybe just like you said, the rank and file, so how do you feel that you can help the Knights?
Logistical planning. So in the military, almost anything we do, everything we do, there's this big planning process that starts from first, from start to finish. So we have like what's called the 5-paragraph order. There's like 5 or 6 what they call like paragraphs. Sometimes it's 1 page, sometimes it's like 10,000 pages, but it goes across every little detail. What's the orientation like? What is the current situation? How are we going to execute the event? Who's in command? What type of communication are going to have? What's a primary plan? What's an alternate plan? So everything's all very detailed.
So it's a very detailed syllabus.
It's a very detailed syllabus. I mean, you delegate who's going to do what, when, how, why. There's dates and time stamps. There's equipment lists. There's all these little things that go into it. But the thing is, like with all the planning process, no plan stands when you make contact with the enemy. So like when you go to execute, things will go wrong. It's just Murphy's Law or whatever. But the thing is, you have this plan, and if everybody understands what that plan is, it makes the event or whatever you're trying to do so much easier, because you don't need like a top commander or like a captain or somebody telling, hey, we need to go do this. People already know what needs to get done. They know that the plan is kind of falling through a little bit, and then they will find within their capabilities to complete the plan. So
So like you said, it's sort of Murphy's Law. Something
Right.
you know is going to go wrong.
It always does.
Now, I mean, obviously, it's a little different for I'm sure in a wartime scenario.
Absolutely.
I mean, someone forgets a potato salad.
Right.
we can
Right.
make more. But I mean, that's actually a very interesting.
But the basic premise is the same. So, like, somebody forgets a potato salad. It's like, well, we don't have potato salad, but what else do we have? And then they don't have to go to the leader. They just like, well, we don't have potato salad, so let's do coleslaw. Because that's the primary and the alternate plan. I know we're going from warfare to like,
Yeah, I know
we're very extreme.
We're all over the place.
Yeah, but
no, I mean, but I think you're correct in the fact that when you join the Knights and you do buy into the, like we were talking about, the organizational process. If you have that chain of command and you have your plan that's drawn out and everyone's aware of the plan, then you don't run into that problem of, oh my God, what are we going to do if something goes wrong? Because we've already thought of it. Okay, we've got this, and luckily we do have a lot of good planners out there. So, and yeah, I appreciate you entertaining that question. That was just something that was on my mind, and I was just like, I wonder how this is. So, I do appreciate you answering that question. We are on with Mr. Isaiah Angeli, who is a staff sergeant with the Marine Corps. He's been in the Marines for 9 years. We always want to thank our servicemen and women for their service. You guys have a very tough job. I am kind of wondering, what you could be deployed at any second, and I know we are kind of in a world right now where I know we were talking at the priest appreciation dinner. You mentioned that I could be deployed at any second to any place in the world. What is that like to know that your number could be called up and you've got to go and what's kind of your mindset towards that?
So again, it's all very structured, very detailed, very orientated. So there's always Marines, Navy, airmen deployed around the world on the aircraft carriers. Marines can be deployed anywhere in the world in 24 hours. Myself, I'm not necessarily in a point. Like, they're not going to call me up today or tomorrow and say, like, hey, you're being deployed in 24 hours. I mean, if that's happening, we're in World War III. Yeah. It's very, very extreme. Typically, you don't know that. You would know when you're in a ready situation where you need to be called up. But still, I have to be ready. I have to be physically fit. I have to have my finances in order. My wife needs to have access to everything that we do. Because when I do get deployed, my wife cannot be calling me up and be saying, hey, the car broke down. What do I do? And I'm like, figure it out. I can't help you, and I'm in the 7 seas of the high world. So,
well, what an important job that your wife has, and
absolutely,
and we know we thank her especially, and all people who are married to servicemen and women have a tough job, and
spouses are definitely the other better half of it. So,
amen. And once again, we are on with Mr. Isaiah Angeli, who is a Marine Corps Staff Sergeant for the last 9 years, and we will be right back with the second part of our interview here on Annunciation Radio Night Talk.
I went paddleboarding with my family recently. It took forever to get there. The AC stopped working in my van. I couldn't find parking. The paddleboard pump broke. By the time we were ready to have family fun, I was ready to explode on everyone. I was miserable. Now, if I may examine my conscience on radio with you, everything I just complained about is the problem of a blessed person. I have a car, paddleboards, kids, and I'm at a safe state park in the story. I was frustrated because I was trying to manage my blessings. So often, that's exactly what frustrates us. We got to get the kids to school, make their lunches, run off to work. Stop. Think. Thank. You have kids, food, and a job. All blessings. But if you don't get intentional about counting them as blessings, you'll end up miserable and cranky. We need to stop and pause and take stock of what's actually going on and give thanks often. Then we can have perspective and joy even in the midst of the chaos. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com.
I'm Mark Syracusa, St. John the 23rd Past State Deputy with the Knights of Columbus. We listen to Annunciation Radio every morning and throughout the day. Thank God for their good works.
And welcome back into Night Talk. Once again, I'm Eric Loprete. We are here with Mr. Isaiah Angeli, who is a 9-year Staff Sergeant with the United States Marine Corps, and certainly a pleasure to have him on here today. And we will continue with our second part of that interview right after Council announcements. Bowling Green Council will be having their Knights Night Out on June 21st, starting at 6 p.m. They will also have a live band. Then on July 28th, they will be having their inter-parish softball game. And then they also wanted us to remind everyone that there will be a rummage sale at St. Aloysius on July 29th. Perrysburg Council will be having their golf outing on August 16th. They will also be having membership drives on July 13th and 14th at St. Rose. That will be after all masses. We also do want to remind you that the Pick 3 for seminarians is going to be starting up. Please contact Mr. Bob Bidwell for more information. River East Council 14344 will be having their Council Awards Banquet July 14th at the Shrine on Coy Road in Navarre, and that will be also starting at 12 p.m. The Fourth Degree will be having a family gathering September 14th that will also be at the Shrine on Coy Road in Navarre. All Knights are welcome, no matter what degree you are. We are looking for dunk tank volunteers, as I have been told, and somehow I just feel like I'm going to get put into that. I don't know, but I'm just pretty sure I will be. St. John the 23rd will be having their Silver Rose presentation June 29th. They will also be having their golf outing July 27th. Please call Daryl Brunswick at 419-266-2928 for more information, or if you wish to be a sponsor. And as always, we want to remind you that Off the Streets, they will be having drop-off points at St. Joe's. That will be every Saturday starting at 8 a.m. in the church parking lot. There will also be another drop-off point in Oregon at St. Ignatius from 11 until 1, and that will always be on the last weekend of the month. For a full list of items to donate, please go to offthestreetsoftoledo.com. All right, well, we are back. Once again, we have Mr. Isaiah Angeli with us. He is a Staff Sergeant for the United States Marine Corps. Certainly a pleasure to have him on. He's also a member of St. Joan of Arc here in Toledo, Ohio. So, Mr. Angeli, are you ready to go, sir?
I am. Let's do this.
Okay. Well, so I kind of want to go back to maybe just some of the ways that, maybe St. Louis has differed from Toledo. Since moving to Toledo as a new member for Toledo,
right?
What are some of the ways that you think that the organization could improve? Maybe some of the things that you've seen where you'd like to see improvement. Just kind of something like that.
So I think one area that could be improved is communication amongst the members, especially from night to night. And it's not just isolated to like St. Joan of Arc. What's good about the Knights is that it's kind of like the same across the board, how the meetings are ran and stuff. But like going from the St. Louis Council to the various councils throughout the military, they all seem to have the same issue. We'll come to the once-a-month meeting, and all the information is passed there, and then that's like how you get the information. Or then the emails are sent from top down, but those are typically blind carbon copied, and you can't really like respond to it. Typically, you could, but then it's a lot more cumbersome. One thing that could be improved is communication. So, the problem is if you miss a meeting, then you kind of miss the whole month.
Yeah. And
then you miss the next meeting, and now you're 2 months out. And especially for younger people who, with the increase of technology and phones and social media and events and sports games and just all the things going on. For me, when St. Joan of Arc has their meetings, I typically have a lot of like work stuff that goes on at that time frame. It's amazing because like I'll have nothing going on Thursday from 6 a.m. to like 4 p.m. But then from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. I have something with work I have to do. So, and what's good is that there are applications, phone applications, and I've heard of some councils starting to adapt, like using Signal or using WhatsApp or GroupMe, these various phone applications, and they said that's really helped them a lot. And I came across recently this application called Slack. It was designed for businesses and work groups to work on various projects, but the thing is that you have various like text threads within this one application, and how I'm thinking about it is you can have one thread for the whole council and call it like something like council chambers, so it's for all the members, and that's just for the general passing of words. So if somebody has a question and you're not at a meeting, you can ask the question to pretty much everybody within the council. And then you'd have another thread called officers only, or, for the officers, and that can be locked, so only the officers are part of that thread and they can have discussion. But then you can have all these other threads. You can have ones for the, pancake breakfasts that the Knights have, or like one for like service projects, like a landscaping project that they would do, or one for like the fish fries. I'm just kind of going off the various events that St. Joan of Arc does. And if you're interested in doing a service project or doing an event, then you only elect to be in those text threads for that specific event. And so, you're not being bombarded by 20 emails for all these things that doesn't really apply to you, because that just kind of like encourages you to, look at the email, ignore it, and then, or I'll get to it later, but you've already read the email, so you're not going to have that pop-up notification, and it slides on through and you forget about it.
Well, I'm not the best at emails, so
right.
I understand that part. I am not the best at emails, but basically what this sounds like is a kind of a very useful organizational tool where you can just join to the thread that you want to be a part of. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. And then you can also like set notifications for the specific threads, like, hey, notify me on this, don't notify me on that. And the same thing can be worked for like Signal or GroupMe or WhatsApp and those other various applications. There's even like one that I use a lot with school called Discord, but that's very much a gaming platform type app that people use. So, I mean, everybody who uses it are in their 20s and 30s and teens. So I'm pretty sure that probably would not be a good one to use, because that's designed for like gamers, for Knights. But I just think that's one area that the Knights could probably try to work on a little bit better, is try to find a way to increase communication that brings us up into the 21st century a little bit. The Knights have had this model, like a lot of fraternal organizations. You go to the meetings, information is passed there, but unfortunately, society and technology has just changed so dramatically.
My goodness,
it's
crazy.
Yeah, right.
But no,
I'm not sitting here and saying like, hey, we need to reinvent the whole wheel and shake up the whole organization. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like maybe we just need to fine tune something. Like just adapt a little bit. So
no, and you're right. It's especially for younger guys. I mean, you're younger than I am. You're 29 years old. I'm 37. But I mean, we're still working.
Yep.
We have to provide for our families, and we both have things outside of the Knights that we are responsible for. Especially when it comes to our livelihoods. So no, I mean, I get it. Going to meetings is always important.
Absolutely.
But when you're not able to, if we had some of these things in place, like you're talking about, I certainly think that would be very, very worthwhile for the Knights to look into. Because
sometimes, like, I don't have the 2 hours to attend the meeting once a month, but I have 20 minutes or 30 minutes inside my truck to play on my phone or my laptop because I got somewhere a little too early or something. And that's much more flexibility for my time. So,
and now speaking of younger members, and I think, and I will say this, I think in my 5 years as a Knight of Columbus member, I think we are starting to attract new and younger Catholics. But how do you think the Knights can build on that momentum of bringing in those younger guys into our councils?
So this is very much like a Marine Corps thing to say, because it's one of our basic principles. It's like, find out what somebody's really good at and lean into that. So if somebody's really good at landscaping, you have a young guy who's a landscaper, then, ask him to lead like a landscaping project or something, because that's something he's really good at. And he probably doesn't have to put a whole lot of time in because he already knows all the little ins and outs. And I think that's what it is, because, as humans, we're social creatures. We are social creatures. We want to be a part of something, and we want to feel like we are worth something to an organization. And so I just think it's like, you find a younger member, you find out what he's good at, what his capabilities are. And sometimes their capabilities may not be much because they're just so busy with family and work responsibilities. But if you have somebody who's an HVAC guy, or somebody who's an accountant, or somebody who's really good at like computer programming, try to find a way to like utilize them within the council, within the time and capabilities that they have.
And that goes right along with what, and I will say this, I've said this since the first day I've joined the Knights, the best advice that I've ever gotten, and this goes right along with what you're saying, is that you have to find your place in the Knights.
Yes.
If whether that's in prayer, whether that's going to church, you just have to find what's specific that you can do. And I think that's a wonderful take that you just gave, is that we should define what these young guys are good at, and then, like you said, build on that. So I think that's an excellent point. We're here with Mr. Isaiah Angeli from St. Joan of Arc Council. He is a staff sergeant with the United States Marine Corps. It's absolutely been a pleasure to have you on today. Just a couple kind of quick other questions. We did talk about, kind of how do you believe that real quick, how do you think, going along with that communication, how do you see better support from council, like from different councils, maybe? So
I haven't really seen too much on the outer councils. Specifically, I'm focused with the one council I'm a part of. But I mean, just when you brought that question up, great question. Possibly have like the officers maybe get together once a year, maybe not have the knights compete for events. So like, councils that are close proximity with each other, like one council like makes a pancake breakfast, they're entirely their thing, and then you have the other council make like a fish fry their thing. And then that way you're not having like two councils who are very close to each other having a fish fry on the same night, because now you're competing against, customers and not customers, but parishioners, and people. And I don't really have much more to expound upon that, but
that's fine.
Simply just something like that, like don't work with each other on events, and don't maybe they like overlap or overlay each other with events and things. So.
Well, no, I definitely think that the underlying current of this interview has been let's work together and let's build up.
Yes.
So before we let you go, the best question I ask of any interview is who would you have lunch? Which biblical figure would you have lunch with, and why?
Peter, the first pope.
Okay.
He reminds me a lot of myself reading the Bible stories. I mean, my favorite Bible passage is, Jesus looking at Peter and saying, "You're a rock, and on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." Hands down. I also like the Bible story where Jesus gets in Peter's boat. They go out to the water. He says, "Cast out your nets." And Peter looks at Jesus like, "Are you crazy? Like, it's the middle of the day. It's deep water. Like, no fish are going to bite." And then what happens? The fisher almost sinks the boat, because they catch so many fish. Peter is very much an action type person. I take him as a very like logical, thorough, thought out. I mean, the woman at the tomb, they come to the apostles and they're like, "Hey, Jesus isn't there. His body's no longer there." And Jesus, John, and they go like, "What?" And they just take off running, and of course John got there first, but Peter was third. It's like that would be something that I would do. And so that's why I'll take Peter out to lunch.
That's a very good answer. So, Well, Isaiah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck to you, and good luck to your council. And as always, for everyone, thank you for joining us. And we'll be back next Saturday with Night Talk right here on Annunciation Radio.